Right, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am with the wonderful Thomas Sawyer, which who we'll hear from shortly. But we'll just take a bit of time to share out. Feel free to share out as well. Thank you.
Oh, I needed that. I need mother.
We'll just wait for people to pop on.
Yeah, we good. Hello, everyone. Jimmy is doing an interview with me today. Cody had to cancel, so we are live.
I have some questions.
Yes.
I have some questions written down, and I have some questions that are not written down.
Okay. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Whoever said good morning, gentlemen, has just coming up with Facebook user. Can you go on either mine or Thomas's page and watch this live from there? Because I think they must be in a group, and StreamYard and Facebook. Oh, is that you, Ada? Hey, Ada.
I should look at it. I have to go straight in the stream.
Hey, Kathy.
I'll let you read me the comments. Okay.
Yeah, I'll pin or I'll highlight along the bottom any comments that are necessary. Do you want to take questions from people who are watching, or shall I? Do you want to do them as well? Or?
Send them.
All right. So
plug in this phone while you're there.
For those who are on at the moment watching, if you have any, I'm going to be interviewing Thomas today, because the guy who we were going to interview, Cody, unfortunately had to cancel at the last minute. And so if anyone has any questions that they would like me to ask Thomas, then put them in the chat and I will hopefully get to them. Ah, that's better idea. Yeah, we can see. So we'll start in a minute. I've got a few questions for him.
There we go.
Did you want to introduce yourself? I mean, people know who you are.
Hello, everyone. My name is Thomas Sawyer. I'm a psychic medium, healer. I like to use the word exorcist because it's just so insane. But I am technically an exorcist. So, I am an exorcist. It's maybe a different way of looking at it, but in the same way I'm hearing as well. So, and I do readings, Akashic Records readings, help people their spiritual path, demon hunter, as I like to say on TikTok. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Oh, Len, how you doing, brother? I'm interviewing Thomas. So, should we start with the questions?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Right. Question number 1. So, how was it growing up and interacting with the gifts that you have?
Scary is an understatement. So, as a kid, I remember a lot of things before I was 6 years old, but I don't really recall all the memories in detail. One thing I do remember is when I was 6, I saw a Native American in a full headdress standing through my coffee table when I was letting my dog in the door. And I freaked out, ran up the stairs. I remember this memory detailed. I thought the piano would start playing for some reason. And I ran up and told my father, I don't know what he thought to think about this. And he checked the door and he was like, well, the door's unlocked, so maybe someone came in. But I'm like, there's no way a Native American in a full headdress would be in the house. That doesn't make sense. And later on, he told me when I was 18 that there was a girl, because we lived right next to the Cherokee Indian Wars happened. And there was a woman that came, there was a little girl, 3 years old, that got lost in the woods. And it was in the newspaper. So she had a whole story about how this Native American in a headdress led her back to the neighborhood.
Oh, right, cool.
So then when I was like 12, I mean, I'd always see things that would happen before they would happen.
Mm.
I didn't really understand this because I grew up very Christian. So it scared me. A lot of that's probably due to my mother. She's probably going to watch this. And her Christian belief system, which is fine. Everyone can believe what they want. Still, like, there were other times where I would be like, I would walk in the woods as a kid all the time. And I didn't really see anything. But there were certain times I would see like weird things coming out of the ground.
Mm.
Like one in particular. One time I saw a bunch of kids. I thought they were kids I knew because they looked like them. But they were up at the top of the hill, and I was walking like this massive hill. And I'm walking to go home. I had to be like 12 or something, maybe younger. And they started riding their bikes, and they're saying they're going to kill me.
Mm.
Which doesn't really make sense. But I started running, and I could hear them behind me, like chasing me. And I got to the door, and my mother was in the house, and I'm crying and knocking on the door, like, let me in, they're going to kill me. And she comes and opens the door, and she's like, looks outside, and she's like, who? And there's no one there. So like, as a kid, I was seeing all this stuff. And even when I was 14, the first time I saw like the energy of God, which is a whole nother story, it was like youth camp, or like a youth retreat at Mount Perrin, this charismatic Christian. And like after that, I started like, there was one time I saw like this dark entity go through the door. And so I see a lot of this like really dark stuff, like when I was younger, but it was more, I would see other stuff too. I'd see ghosts and stuff.
Mm.
But I would, like, I didn't know what to think, if that makes sense.
What age were you when you sort of first discovered about the thing you could see things and you could feel stuff?
I didn't know what to believe. So even though I saw the things, it was very hard for me to believe what I was seeing was real.
Mm.
So probably around the age, because everyone thought I was crazy. Back then, this wasn't normal at all.
Yeah, did you tell everyone about it?
No. But anyone I did, I think they freaked out about it. So I remember this came to my memory. So a friend of mine, he had this girlfriend for many, many years. And the girlfriend, I had a dream that she had cheated on. So I had to be about 18. And I went to him. He was one of my best friends for a very, very long time. So I was about 36. And I was like, man, your girlfriend cheated on you. I had this dream. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Well, it comes back like 2 years later, and I'm working at this place. And he comes in like crying. And I'm like, shit, can I take my lunch break? And they're like, give him 30 minutes, you can take. So I sat down with him, and he's like, I remember you told me this 2 years ago. I know it's not you. And I know it's not this person. I'm thinking this person was obviously that person. So, but he's like, you told me about this. And I was like, yeah, I've always had those kind of things. I'll see stuff happening way before it happens. I feel like sometimes I'll react to those situations. And sometimes what I'm hearing is sometimes I react too soon, because what I feel like is I don't mean to say like everybody, but some people haven't caught up to what I'm seeing. And then I might get myself in trouble for saying something too early, which has happened a lot, Mary, for my guys. Yeah. So I'm into this when I was like, God, 34, like 11 years.
So why do you think? How do you think that all works then? Do you know why you see stuff before they happen? Do you think what they say about it's only the present and everything's happening now? If everything's happening now, how do we know what's going to happen? Well, I suppose because you can jump from another timeline. What do you think about timelines?
It's interesting. kind of go with Bashar on this, even though I'm on the fence with him sometimes. I mean, I like him, and I don't
Mm,
agree with some things, and I agree with some things. I
mm,
don't dislike him. I just don't know what to think sometimes with him. But still, he like with the timeline thing. I think there's a multitude of timelines that happen at any given point.
mm.
Understanding those timelines and understanding why those things are happening or what could happen, because I've had clients that, or even friends that they're like, Thomas, I'm seeing this and this and this,
Mm.
like is going to happen, and I'm like, I think you're seeing alternate timelines, like
Yeah.
possibilities or maybe other realities. The whole multiverse thing is massive now since the first season of Loki, but
Mm.
it's like it. I'm like, I think you're seeing something in another timeline. Like I would have a friend 2 years ago. He's like, I had this vision of you, and we're in the future, and everyone's shooting each other, and like with guns, like they're shooting at each other. And I was like, he goes, you look like Gandalf. You're like wielding energy. I go, I don't have a gun. He's like, no. I was like, well, maybe I need a gun. No, no. Like you look like Neo. Like you
Mm.
stop bullets. I'm like, dude, that's crazy. Like, are you insane? It's like I think you're seeing another reality.
Mm.
So I don't. Yeah, I've had clients. I don't know what timelines. It's gotten so popular lately,
Mm.
but I don't know what to think of it.
I know what you mean. It's like, is there one definitive timeline and all the others are just possibles? And or do we? Is it one for the collective? Is it one for everyone? Everyone's even in the same one, or are we each in our own? It's just I don't know. It's
Well, there's one interesting one, Jimmy. So, my ex, I've had some chaotic relationships. So with one, and she was very, I would say she's a little mentally unstable. Anyways, no disrespect to her. Still, but she was like, she saw a timeline where Russia bombed us.
mm,
She said if this person had been elected into office, and I don't, she may be political, but she knew her stuff. I'm hearing, but she's just really dark
mm.
and maybe mentally unhinged a bit. Still, she was like, that actually happened. This is crazy. They rewound the timeline,
All
so it
right.
doesn't happen.
Mm,
And I was like, who are they? She's very Christian,
mm,
but she's very psychic. Anyways, so but she would see the worst things. This was kind of her MO. The worst things in people, the worst things that were going to happen,
mm,
which tells you a lot about her behavioral patterns.
mm.
But still, like, yeah. And I was like, what the fuck? I mean, I had to be like 36 or something at the time. I was like, I don't know, 30, I don't know how old I was. I was like, it's crazy. You're insane. But looking back at it, I'm like, maybe she wasn't insane. Maybe that did happen and they rewound the timeline. She's like, this happens a lot. They just rewind it. And like, they're like, we're going to start here. Let's see what happens.
Mm. Yes, the looking glass, isn't it? The project looking glass is supposed to be the thing that they can. I don't know whether you can rewind time using it because I've read a little bit on it, but not. I don't know the intimate details of it. But apparently, it shows different timelines and what's the most likely one to happen, and you know, I don't know about time manipulation, but I mean, and the question is, who is they? Yes, that's another question.
That's
Everyone
the
says
question. Who is
they, and
they?
yeah,
Are they extraterrestrials? Are they
they,
God? Are they?
yeah.
This is what I say to my friend all this. Like, they are telling me, I go, who are they?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, they're angels. I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense because I need to know who they are.
Mm. Hey, Carol. Hey, Mary. Hey, Fatima. So, speaking of angels, how is it working with angels?
Lately, I've kind of had this thing where there's been a lot of disclosure about UFOs. I mentioned this to Jimmy earlier before.
Mm.
Canada, and there's other things I've been hearing about here and there. I'm kind of like, I'm kind of just sticking to angels, and like the message I got was stick to certain angels and stick to certain like masters on Earth, and then like the Syrians,
Mm.
maybe some Arcturians, but like because the Syrians, I've talked to them. They're like the most advanced race in the cosmos. I don't know a lot about them, but I have gone and talked to them. So like I feel that I don't know. I feel like some of the ETs, even if they're like Palladian or something, I'm hearing,
Mm.
They may not be the best for you to work with because there's a lot of races up there.
Mm.
And what are their intent? Like it could be one intent, could be different from another's intent. If that makes sense.
Mm.
So, but
Yeah.
working with angels, it's as long as you're picking the right ones, which I'm hearing just naturally gravitate towards. Because even angels, there can be some dark ones. There's different kinds of angels. You got like Hathor angels, you can Enochian angels, like biblical angels. You could go through a whole series of angels. I've seen dark angels.
Mm.
I don't know if I call them angels, though I'm hearing, but
Mm.
I've seen what people would call darker angels.
Mm.
I think I would call them more like demons. I know that's like a popular term for the last 200 years, but yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't know.
Hey Donna, hey Lisa. Obviously they mentioned about fallen angels, so that would indicate that they. When we take fallen angels and think, oh well, they must have done something bad to be fallen. But I mean, I don't really know the story about the fallen angels. Um, but could that be a metaphor for something? Um, this is. I haven't read the Bible, but I know that it talks about fallen angels,
I can tell
and
you what I remember because I remember a lot of my past lifetime. Not a lot. I mean, I've had quite a few. I don't mean to sound egotistical, but I've had a lot more than I can remember. So what I recall is that I was like in whatever you would call heaven, and they were like, "You have to incarnate on Earth," and I was like, "No, I'm not going
mm,
to that mud bowl." And they were like, "You have to go," and I was like, "No, but that sounds like me." And they just kicked me out. They're like, "Go," and then I was in a human body. And a old friend of ours that we don't talk to anymore, she had said, she was like, "Yes, you guys had like we had wild power, but I don't think we remembered who we were.
mm,
Like we were put into human bodies, we had wild amounts of power, but we didn't know who we are. I don't feel like we were fallen. I think they sent us here to do something.
mm,
We didn't realize. What I'm getting is we didn't realize what would happen when we got into a human body and we forgot what we were."
mm. So, do you remember why, or do you know why we keep reincarnating? Is there a particular reason?
Well, there's one person that I'm going to bring up. I forget her name. And it's a lot of people. I agree with some of it. And I don't agree with some of what she says, but still, she believes that you reincarnate into the same bloodline, usually for a mission and like 10 incarnations. It's like something you're trying to accomplish.
Mm,
Like into like, say it's like a pharaoh bloodline or like a biblical bloodline, which probably goes way before biblical times, even though the Bible theoretically goes to the beginning. It might. I don't know. So, um, I feel like part of it is like Journey of Souls, which everyone asks me like, what's the one book you recommend? And I would
mm,
say like Destiny of Souls, the second one,
mm,
and that's a whole nother topic. But still, he talks about how in between incarnations, he's very logical, and he was a very world-renowned psychiatrist, or something like that, very popular one. When he got into this, and he found that people, when he was going through his research, which is in the book, is that people would like go and they would choose, they would go to councils and they would die, like to see what lessons they had learned and whatever primary lesson or lessons they needed to learn that lifetime. Then they would like maybe go and build other planets, or they would do this or they would do that, but eventually they would be like, "I'm tired of doing this. I want to go back to Earth, or I want to
mm.
go over here, or I want to go over here." Because I hear all these, and I know you've heard this before, Jimmy. They're like, people like, "I don't want to reincarnate." I'm like, "You're gonna reincarnate inevitably
Yeah.
somewhere." So I'm like, I think that's just part of the plan. So I
So
don't, yeah.
sounds like Earth. If Earth is pretty wild compared to the rest of the um, universes or realms or
Yeah.
and so people come here just when they get bored of doing everything else.
Well, I think Earth is like a big playground. We have free will. So,
Mm,
like, if I were to go by, like, I'm mess up his name, but Chiron, Lee Carroll. When I heard him, hundreds of hours of this guy on YouTube when I was younger. Essentially, Earth is like another planet has, like, say, 40% their higher self is in control. And Earth, he said inevitably that would happen, like in the next like 10 years or 20 years, or maybe longer.
mm,
But on these other planets, like we have almost total free will.
mm. That's
So we
what.
can choose anything we want to do.
Mm.
So it's like it's literally like a carnival.
And that's what makes it unique.
Yeah.
Because I did wonder that. I thought, well, if the main goal, mission, or whatever is for humanity or Earth to ascend, so to speak, and move up through the dimensions or whatever, then doesn't that take away some of the, shall we say, the appeal of what Earth is for, to have a physical experience and have free will in that physical experience? Because if we if Earth ascends through the dimensions, then eventually that physical experience is going to dissolve and it's just going to become energy, like there are in other supposedly in other dimensions where people are just where spirits are just energy and they don't have that physical interaction. And I've heard that that's why a lot of souls incarnate on Earth, is to have that physical interaction. But if Earth ascends, then that physical interaction is going to one day kind of be no more, and so it's going to lose its pizzazz, so to speak. But I
Yeah.
don't. Maybe that's meant to happen, and there's other places where you can have physical interactions, and it's not just about Earth. But I guess we'll find out at some point.
Well, the former teacher would say, I always call him a former teacher, Rossy. So
Mm,
Rossy would say that out of all the planets, she's like, think of an angel. An angel ascends very slowly. But if
mm,
you incarnate onto Earth, you can ascend very fast. And she was like, there's 7 billion like souls waiting to come onto Earth, or some crazy number of
mm,
souls trying to get onto Earth at any given time. Like
mm,
there's like a line. Because even if you talk about ETs, there's so many ETs watching this planet. I have this theory that whatever the galactic war is, however you look at that whole thing, is that we're kind of the deciders of what happens. I don't
mm,
know,
mm,
but the Earth's population could at least play, I'm hearing, could play a pivotal role in it.
mm. Yeah, yeah.
Like if we choose. I don't
Mm,
know why we're so important. It's like people talk about different realities. I
mm,
feel like we're a primary reality.
mm. So one of the, if there was a sort of a controlling reality that dictates the rest of
Yeah.
the vibration or the implications of what goes on in the rest of the known universe, or just in the rest of the universe, then Earth is a pivotal factor. The
Yeah.
vibration or frequency of Earth is a hey Bob, it's hey Tony, hey Luke, how you doing, brother? Um, hey Brian. Uh, but yeah, I think I've heard that it's kind of why there's a lot of attention around Earth. It's
They're
because it.
watching. I mean, they're watching us like hawk, Mary.
Mm,
I've known this for a while. They're like watching,
mm,
especially certain spiritual workers, Mary. They're
mm,
like, I've heard this from other people that have watched me on Facebook and stuff. They'd randomly, like other psychics, they'd be like, you got so many different beings watching you right
mm. Oh, I
now. Like,
think yeah.
they're like, how on earth? Well, not how on earth, but they're like, how? They're like, you're doing things they don't even understand how you're doing.
Mm,
I'm like, I don't know.
mm,
Like, I don't know. I just doing what I feel like I need to do.
exactly.
So, yeah.
So, um, what what led you to, obviously you had all of these gifts when you were younger. What led you to kind of use them in this way that you're doing now?
One day I had mentors and teachers for a long time, and for like many, many years. And then I was attuned to one healing modality and like Reiki level 1. And I was like, one day I just woke up, I was like, I have to heal people.
Mm.
So I went to one of my friends who I knew was psychic, and she at least was accepting of this. And I was like, let me see what I can do with this. I don't know what's going to happen. She's like, okay. She's like, I'm seeing pyramids and Merkabas, one form of healing I do. And she was like, I was like, okay, cool. So then I went to my ex-girlfriend, and when I was like 39 too, or something like that, I can't remember the age ranges. And I did healing on her, and she was like, she had a jaw issue. And she messaged me the next day and she goes, 50% of my pain's gone. I don't know what you did. It's like, 2, let's keep going. So I just kept doing this. And then I went on the Facebook around Christmas Eve when I was 39 or something like, I don't know, I was 30, what age I was. And I was like, how do I get noticed? How do I heal more people?
Mm.
So I started messaging all these massive people like Deborah and stuff like that. At that time were really massive people. And I was like, I offer my services. And they just started talking about me. Then some girl came to me and said, I would like you to go. I was just sending energy through Messenger to them. Like I would ask them if it was okay. They're like, I don't know how you're doing this. I was like, I don't know. I just know how to do it. So I just kept doing it. It was funny to me. So I kept doing it. And they were like, I want you to go on camera. And I was like, I don't know about that. I talked to one of my mentors at the time, and he was like, I don't remember what he said. I think he was not for it, but because it's not something he would do. But I was like, let me see what happens. I recently saw that live a couple of like months ago, like part of it. And I was like, God, it looks so green. While I'm watching, I look so terrified to be on camera for one of those first few lives. But I just kept doing it. And I realized like the wilder I got, because I didn't have to worry about money or anything. The wilder I got, the more people would watch.
Yeah.
So I was like, I was working a full-time job doing pest control. So I was just like, fuck it. Like, I'll just do this on my free time. Like every 2 weeks, once a month, whenever I feel like I want to do it. And it just blew up. And I was like, this is crazy. So yeah, I would just be making fun of twin flames and talking about all kinds of crazy stuff. But I don't think you saw me back then. I don't think anybody had seen a male on camera act like.
Yeah, there was I mean, people love a bit of I don't want to say controversy, but opinions that go against what is generally accepted. They seem to be quite drawn to them. And so from what I can remember seeing you around that time, I think this dude is crazy. But it's strangely appealing. It's almost like you just want to see what you do next. You know what I mean? It's one of those. I feel like we're kind of drawn to that just because someone's different from sort of the norm. No matter what they're like. I mean, within reason, of course.
Yeah.
But I suppose you could say like they're edgy. They push the limit, push the boundaries.
It's like an authenticity to it, though.
Yeah, you're just being yourself.
Yeah, it's so much of an authenticity because what irritated me so much with Rossy was that you had all these people taking all these classes that were like $2,000. Some of them were doing something with it, but I was like, you guys are taking all these classes. I mean, I should not say this out loud, but this could go one day be put somewhere else. Is that I was like, but none of you are doing shit with it. And here I am, and I'm not even taking these classes. And I was like, I can do more than you can. And it doesn't make sense. If you're taking these classes, why aren't you doing something with it? Like, why aren't you out there like healing people? Why aren't you doing something, especially once I started healing people. And then even when I started getting on, like I started getting clients, like just everyday walking life. And then I was doing house clearings. Like anytime someone would offer me something, go to a psychic clear, I would just do it. I wouldn't even prepare.
Mm.
I would just go do it.
Mm.
And it would always work out like beautifully, which would surprise me. But it was like going live. You just did it. I didn't half the time I go live most of the time. I don't even know what I'm going to talk about if I'm going to talk. I have no idea.
No, I don't. I'm the same. I don't. Whenever I do a live, it's generally just spur of the moment, off the cuff, whatever comes up.
Yeah.
Do you get nervous?
Yeah. 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 All the time. I had so many panic attacks on Facebook while I was live. I just kept doing it. I say that's the one thing people, they're like, well, I'm scared. And I'm like, you think I haven't been scared before?
Yeah.
I just keep doing it. It's like I can't stop.
Because the thing that I've found is with most of the people who watch, they wish that they want you to succeed. They don't want you to fail. I mean, obviously, you may get the odd one who's just tuning in, but they and if something goes wrong or whatever, then they're not going to all be on your back, or they're not going to have a go at you, because they're the community that I've seen most in the main are understanding and kind and supportive, and so there's no real reason to be, even though I still get nervous, there's no real reason to be nervous, because things will happen, and we know that if something happens that appears not to go well, it is sort of highlighting something for us to look at, and there's always a reason, even if you don't know the reason right then, is kind of the sort of the explanation kind of reveals itself in time.
Yeah, I feel like there is obviously toxicity on spiritual sin. We both know that. But still, there is a lot of these people will. I noticed it last night when I was doing readings on TikTok and healing. Like, there'll be certain people just randomly, and they'd be like, Thomas, you look sad. And I'm like, listen, I'm the one on camera. I get that you care, but let me do my job. Like, this is like me going into Walmart and asking you every 5 minutes if you're okay. Like, doing your job. I can tell if the cashier's like got a problem going on or something, but I'm not going to ask her about it. And they're like, oh, okay, we'll stop. But yeah, it is what it is. What's the question?
Oh no, it's just Frank says you should do your own TV show.
I should, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
It was offered. Someone, I think it was Don Marie, said that like a year and a half ago. She's like, in like 3.5 years, you're going to have your own TV show. And I was like, okay. I was like, I don't know. When it happens, it happens.
All right. Here's a question. Well, it's actually more of I've got a couple of questions, but they're personal to the asker. So Ada says, although this would be a good informative.
Oh, okay, I see it.
Because sometimes when we do, things do hurt, if like maybe headaches or whatever, that could be any. I mean, it could be a physical thing. We can't necessarily attribute everything to downloads or spiritual or energetic means. They can be physical sometimes, and it's obviously important to explore the fact that it could be physical, and just.
Sorry, Jimmy. I think it's different for everyone. So I'm sure I get affected by downloads sometimes, but I don't really notice as much. I think it really depends on who you are. And that sounds so, I'm prefaced everything I'm saying. I'm not trying to sound egotistical. I think it depends on who you are and how it affects you.
Mm.
You know, a lot of spiritual people get downloads, and they can be affected so many different ways. So whether that's our DNA coming online, which I think is a big part of it, or whatever we accept to allow channeling a little bit, allow into our reality,
Mm.
which I think is a really key point to things, which you're allowing into your reality.
Mm.
So you can build your own reality. I was watching, I think it was Bob Proctor, but he was talking about Napoleon's Hill, Think and Grow Rich.
Oh yeah.
Changed his entire life. He
Mm.
reads it every day for like 50 years or something. Anyways, so obviously it works. I mean, it's still a best-selling book. Still, like, he allowed that into his reality. He's like, I would never be the person I am today if someone had not suggested that I read this book.
Mm.
So he allowed that into his reality. So I think that's kind of the key. It's like, what I'm hearing is, if we were Knights Templars running around,
Mm.
everything would be about war and Jesus. We
Mm.
could probably still do the same things, but everything, that would be our reality.
Mm.
Be running around conquering the world, and you know, a lot of people didn't like the Templars. I found that lifetime very entertaining, regardless of what happened. But for me, it would sound very entertaining. I
Mm.
remember, so very entertaining, lots of war, and yeah. So, and I'm sure I challenged the status quo on some level. I seem to do that about every lifetime. Uh, anyways, yeah. So.
Excellent. Right. I've got one more from Tara.
What I'm hearing from my guides, Tara, is, does it matter
Mm.
who, if you did it, your subconscious mind, angels? I think that's I think we try to quantify the answer into
Mm.
something. Especially, I'm getting beyond ourselves, and I think that, this is my opinion, I think that sometimes it doesn't matter as long as it happens.
Mm. And do you think that can be applied to channeling as well? It's almost as if someone we say per se we want to say channel a certain being or certain entity or whatever, and we get an answer come through and we express it obviously, and then but there's some sort of, sometimes there's a fascination of knowing who it was. Was that just me? Was that my own mind? Was that this angel? Was it that ascended master? Was it, was it, who was it? And does it matter whether it came from your own consciousness or whether it came or you channeled it from another being? Because surely everything's interconnected anyway. And who's to say that ascended masters, angels aren't us, or our spirit guides aren't us, just in a different form as it is? So I think we can get too hung up on where information comes from. As long as it comes through and it feels right, then that's kind of all that matters. But I don't know what your take on that is.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that. I'm just being reminded of something. So I would have people say this to me, and a guy used to hang out with a lot from Ecuador or from Argentina. He would be like, when I was doing a session with you, he's like, your face kept changing into like other beings.
Hmm.
And I was like, I think I'm changing into other versions of myself
Hmm.
while I'm doing this. He's like, you turn blue. That's like probably the first times I heard the Syrian thing.
Hmm.
So I was like, oh, but I didn't really know what that meant. I was like, I don't know, man. But yeah, that's the thing, is I think sometimes we're just tapping into other versions of ourselves, or maybe other beings. Can't tell you how many times I've heard someone say it was an archangel or something, but that may only be their frame of reference.
Hmm.
They're like, oh, you're Archangel Jeremiah. Oh, you're Archangel Michael. I'm like, you've heard this, Jimmy. Everyone thinks there's some fucking archangel. Not everyone, but a lot of people do. And I'm like, give me a break.
Yeah.
So I'm like, give me a break. Like, you can't all be Archangel Michael. So, yeah. So I think humans want to place a very strong importance on certain things. So outside of themselves is what I keep hearing over and over again.
I did a post on this a year or two ago about how everyone was Cleopatra. You know, it must have been. You see loads of posts that, oh yeah, it was Cleopatra, and it oh, okay, good.
They still are. I'm still hearing about it.
But
Like,
I mean, that's not to say
I'm
that.
Cleopatra. Okay, there's 85,000 of you that were Cleopatra, or 85 million or something. I'm like, give me a break. If you guys didn't even know who Cleopatra was, you'd never be saying that name.
And that's not to say they weren't. I mean, if infinite timelines exist, and and if everything's possible, then they might very well have been. But I don't know. I found it quite interesting, shall we say?
Yeah. So I'm like, how many people are worth this person? And I've heard the Michael thing so many times from like other people saying they were Michael. I'm like, oh my god. And the person, like one of my friends talks about one of his friends that ended up in prison or something. He thought he was Michael, or whatever happened to the guy who died. I can't remember. But still, like, he was like, I was so drawn in because he could do all these amazing things. I'm thinking, well, look at him now. He's passed away, or he's in prison, or whatever. I think he's in prison. So I'm just like, look at him now. It's real. It's a real high involvement for Archangel Mike. He's in prison.
Or not? Get out easy. There's a question from Brian, which kind of ties in with another question that I have. The question that I'm going to ask is, how is it seeing a whole new life, a whole new view of spirituality, sort of later in life as opposed to when you were younger? And kind of, if you can intertwine that with this question from Brian, he might sort of gain some insight from your experience on how you can kind of intertwine or intermingle the two.
I'm different, Brian. So I've had my family say stuff to me, especially my mother. I don't care. And when I was at pest control, people were watching me that I worked with on Facebook. And they would get in like arguments about me while I was there. Like, I remember talking to one guy who was really Christian. He was my boss at the time. But my old boss was like, you've never seen him on camera. There's something to what he's doing. Like, I can feel it when he's doing healing. Like, there's something to what he's doing. And he's like, it's quite remarkable. So that's the point, is I just didn't really care what anyone thought about me. I think people care so much about, it's like zebras, Jimmy. Like, they all have stripes, okay? They don't stand out, but together they fit in a perfect cohesive unit to protect themselves from a lion. This is what people like to do. They like to fit in a cohesive unit and not stand out because they won't be attacked. They feel safety in this. It's like herd mentality. And I'm not saying that towards you, Brian. I just think people in general feel this way. So I like to stand out. So I don't really care. Like, I'll care sometimes what people think, but for the most part, I'm like, whatever. Like, just leave me alone or get away from me. But I'm cool with that. I think I've always been cool with that, because I think as a kid, I was effed with so much until I was 14 that my name's ThomasSawyer. So, like, I was effed with so much. So I always stood out regardless of what the fuck I did. I'm not cussing too much. So even when I got popular and started getting in fist fights and everything else, and I prayed about that. I said, God, I want to be popular. I didn't know this would work. I said, I want to be popular. I want to be respected, not fucked with, and be respected, and have a girlfriend. And it happened within like 2 weeks or a month. Like, everything started shifting so fast. I didn't know this would work. But I was so like pissed off, and it just started getting in fist fights with people, and it was weird. But I've done this quite a few times. I'll pray or just demand that something happens. Like my ex, I said, God, I want a girl that looks like this. No, I didn't even say, I was like, this is what I want. I go, I want a girl that looks like this. I want her spiritual and not to be crazy. And kaboom. Within a week, she was there. Or 2 weeks, she was there. I was like, what on earth? How did this happen so fast? But I've done this so many times with so many things.
Yeah, just ask. That's all you have to do, really.
So balancing your career with your spiritual development. So many people, they message me. They're so afraid of what other people think. And I think sometimes that's okay because I've seen some bad scenarios with other people, not me, but where they can't do that or they're being judged. But I'm like, I've been judged my whole life for this. I judged my whole life just in general. So what's another day at the office for me? I mean, even with the drama that happened on TikTok 7 months ago, it's like, I'm not really surprised, honestly. Thinking back about it, yeah, I mean, you saw me during that time, but like, I'm not really surprised that all this happened. And as one of my friends told me, like, you're going to get bigger, Thomas, eventually, like a lot bigger, and you're going to have to deal with this again. Maybe not this way, but another way. So you have to see how you're going to roll with this. Like, can you handle it? And I was like, oh shit, okay. So, and you'll have your supporters come out for you, and then you'll have people who won't be supporters. And people, unfortunately, hate conflict. They love conflict, but they don't like to do it in person. So they will talk about you behind your back sometimes and be judgmental. At the same time, you can't let that ruin you. I think it's the best way to answer the question.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Exactly. I hope that helped, Brian. And I think that we get to a point, like Thomas says, where we just think it's not worth caring about. I mean, it's sort of, we do care, but we don't necessarily care because it's not worth it's not our peace and us living how we choose to live and being ourselves, etc. is worth the any prospective judgment or any future sort of judgment or criticism from people, because we get to a point where we think I've just got to do this. I don't care what people say anymore, because it's not, if I was to live how everyone expects of me, then it wouldn't be my life, it would be their lives. So we I think we all kind of get to that point. It's one time or another where we just think, oh fuck it. Basically,
I want to be 80 or 90 years old in a nursing home, whatever age, if that happens, and look back, because I watch those videos to give me motivation. Everything they say they wish they had done. I don't want to be one of those people. Like, even if it's like insanity and insane sounding, whatever it is I do, like I want to say I did everything that I wanted to do. Like that. That's what I want to say.
And that's not to say that we should just disregard everyone else's feelings or because there's something within us that says, oh, well, yeah, we can do what we want, but if it causes pain or whatever to someone else, then we're not going to do it, because it's just within us to care about how others feel. And you know, I mean, it's not in everyone. Obviously, psychopaths are a different story, but for the most, people do care about not hurting other people. And so it's not to say we should just do whatever we want regardless. But at the same time, I guess it's all just life and how things are. And we do what we feel is best at the time.
Whatever our lens of morality is for ourselves, because every perspective is going to be different. There was a guy that commented on one of my TikTok videos, and of course, some things will trigger me. But when I followed him back. He was very Christian, and I deleted the comment. But I wanted to see his videos, and I was like, "Oh, you're a militant Christian. I get it." So, like, he was like, "People shouldn't be tapping into spirituality without knowing what they're doing." And I was like, "Well, he does have a kind of a point on that on some level, but you don't get started in anything. You don't tap into Christianity you do that without knowing what you're doing too." So, what is really the difference? Of course, you can't fight all that, and it's going to be an argument back and forth. But still, because he's going to think he's right and I'm wrong, and I'm going to think I'm right and he's wrong. So there's no real way to win that debate. But
No.
still, I was like, I just find it very interesting how judgmental people are.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Do you think spirituality has become a religion?
Yeah. I feel the New Age movement's become a religion.
Mm.
I'm going to say it like this. I feel it's become a cult. I feel Christianity's become a cult.
Mm.
I feel everything has become a cult. Now, is that a bad thing? I don't think so. When I feel like it's a bad thing is when I see certain other creators on different apps. And it's very few, actually. And they wouldn't be people like other people that watch me on TikTok would even think I would know. But I see them making cults of people. But some of my clients will come back to me and talk to me sometimes. And I won't really engage with the conversation, but I'll listen to what they're saying. They'll be like, this guy. And I go, I know. Like, I already know. I've already had other people say stuff. But I won't even like usually say anything unless it's like off the record. I know they're not going to talk because I know how people are. Like they'll start causing more drama. Some people. So yes, I feel like it's become a cult. It's like Christianity. I don't think Jesus came to actually, it's gonna be so controversial. I don't feel like Jesus came to do what people think he came to do. If I were to go by Edgar Casey's definition, and Edgar Casey and Madame Lebowski are two of the main pioneers of the New Age movement. And Edgar Casey was a Sunday school teacher as well, which is really wild. And is that if we didn't have them and the spiritualist movement, the 1800s, I don't even think we'd have the New Age movement.
Mm. Yeah.
So I don't think they realize what would happen.
Is there a question from Len?
Yes. The answer is yes. Do you ever get to the point of being overwhelmed to just tune out your guides? And yes. This is why it disappears sometimes.
You have a day off.
Yeah, I'm taking a whole day off. I don't care. I'll watch TV all day. Yes, it does get overwhelming sometimes. I don't think our guides realize that we're human. So it gets. I don't think they realize what it is to be human anymore. So it's almost like so much sometimes. There's lives I've done on different apps where I will literally, me and Jimmy did this, a couple times. So we would go live for 4.5 hours straight. The amount of energy that takes, and I had to do it back then because I needed the money. And I had to go there as long as I could push myself. And yeah, but sometimes I would leave that being totally depleted, even with TikTok. And sometimes I leave that being totally fine. But then I may just check out for like 2 days. As long as but the thing with me is I'm not very consistent when it comes to going live. I do it at all kinds of weird times and I post at weird times. It's kind of how I am. So, but I think you have to develop some kind of consistency.
Lauren says 4 hours, completely insane.
4.5 hours. I was underneath a gas station in the middle of the rain from camping with Jimmy. Underneath, it was pouring rain. And we went live, and I somehow found this gas station in the middle of nowhere. And they let me sit there for 4.5 hours. There was barely anybody coming in with Jimmy, for 4.5 hours. And then there was another time I actually had the vid, and it just started. And I was like, I got this live, but I got to afford my testosterone shots I get them from a doctor. And I'm like, I got to do this live. So I was like, shit, okay, here we go. And afterwards I was like, oh, Jesus, I need to go to sleep. This has made me worse, but I had to do it. I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
I was like, I got to do it, whatever. I mean, I do that a lot with lives. I'm just I don't really want to go live. But then once I get going, it used to be like a shift at some point. Maybe within a minute or two. I'm like, okay, let's go.
I'd done 3-4 hour lives with Crystal, and yourself, and others as well. But yeah, it does kind of take it out of you.
Yeah. You're pushing yourself to extreme limits.
Yeah, that's true. Lauren, Jolene did used to do long lives as well. Question from Sharonda. Hey, Sharonda.
Does the tapping of the face help tune the guides out? It's so interesting to me because so many people want to hear their guides and then some people want to tune them out. because I get both questions. Like the more questions I get is, how do I talk to my guides? I'm like, they're already talking to you. You're just not listening. So sometimes they are, but still, I don't know about the tapping stuff. I know what you're talking about. I don't know. I know there's people that do that on Facebook and TikTok, but I don't know what that is.
Was it you talking about EFT, Sean?
Yeah.
The sort of the, and then underneath the eyes, and then all of that kind of stuff. Are you talking? Is that what you're talking about? Excuse me. That will let tapping.
Emotional freedom technique or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't heard. I mean, I know a few people who do it and who teach it actually.
I mean, if it works for you and subconsciously you pick up that it will do that, or you just believe it will, then it will.
Yeah. I've known people who have had good results from doing that.
Yeah.
And each, I don't necessarily resonate with it, but then again, I resonate with other techniques or methods, as I'm sure you do, that other people don't. It's kind of like whatever works.
I like to find sometimes people that are totally off the beaten path. So, like a year and a half ago, I got sent to an acupuncturist. I know it just sounds like an acupuncturist, but this lady, dear God, in Savannah, she's in the perfect spot. Number one, she's an exorcist. Number two, everything to her is 15th century and before. Number three, she doesn't even know what the Bible is. She doesn't know what Facebook is, TikTok, anything. She is like slammed with people. They've been seeing her for like 20 years. I couldn't even tell how old this lady is. Like I thought she was like 40, maybe 55. I have no idea. So, but she was doing divergent channels. She would explain to me one time that someone would cut. She said a girl came to her one time and said, an 18-year-old girl, because she had a whole massive art school out there, college, and said, I don't know why I'm here, but I'm here. She goes, okay, this is what I have to do 3 times a week for 3 months. This is how much it's going to cost. And she's like, that girl is going to become an actress in Hollywood. By the time she was done with this, she went on to New York and is one of the leading interior decorators in the world. But she's channeling all of this art from another dimension. She randomly comes back and sees me like every couple of years. But it totally changed her life. That was the thing but the thing about, I'm not going to talk smack, is that I feel like people eventually, she's got a kind of a God complex. I feel like people eventually fall before her. Like they're so broken at some point by what she's doing, which I think is part of the process. And other teachers I've seen, they push you to limits that break you. I would never break. Like there would be times where I would almost break and I would do something to make sure that I didn't.
Yeah.
And I just kept doing this. And I think she's like, how is this guy doing this? I mean, she knew like I was psychic and did all these things, but she was like, how is he doing this? And she eventually just kicked me out after 3 months. So, yeah. But she was amazing. One day I'll probably thank her, or I'll put her in my book.
You started writing a book yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
That shit crazy.
Is that what it's called?
Spiritual enlightenment.
Excellent.
Everything's going to be in there.
Speaking of, what was I going to say? I saw something about bat shit the other day, about how I think it's used for fertilizer, and it's the most potent fertilizer and best fertilizer in the world, or something like that. And how a lot of it comes from the minerals that are needed for the bats or something like that to eat. It come from Morocco, and Morocco is one of the biggest exporters or suppliers of this mineral. Anyway, I don't know what it's got to do with anything. But it just reminded me when you said batshit. I don't know why. But anyway, so if you want some good guano, that's it. Well done, Brian. Guano. So little tip for people if they want to grow some plentiful and bountiful vegetables, then get some guano.
Aren't those coffee beans that come out of bats' butts too?
Well, it might be.
There's like some extreme, like expensive coffee. I think it comes out of bats.
We're not sponsored by guano or anything like that, by the way. We're not sponsored by bat shit. Although that would be quite unique.
That's our segue.
Question from Ivy.
Everyone asks me this question. I can't reveal client confidentiality.
What about pest control? When you did pest control, I remember you've told us a couple of stories when we've been doing lives about spiders running towards you and stuff like that. What's the scariest one that you've done when you've been doing the pest control? Like the one where you thought, "Oh shit, I'm in trouble here." Was there any one where you thought, "Oh shit, I'm in trouble"?
With pest control, that's going to be too much to say. Where I had to kill a rat, I didn't have a choice, like physically kill it. But there were times. I'm thinking of one spiritual thing, but as far as not on the spiritual path, I was in a crawl space. My friend recently did a job and he quit, but he was in a craze. Like, I don't know how you went through these crawl spaces for years, like checking them for termites or whatever I was doing. And when I was in one, that the house had burned down and they encapsulated it. A very, very expensive house. They rebuilt it after it burned down. And they encapsulated it. I had to go check it out to give clearance if there weren't any termites. It's encapsulated. It's not like I'm even going to see anything really. But as I was going out or coming in, this brown recluse ran up to me, was running. So I'm only like this high off the ground. And it's running at me. And all I have is a flashlight. And brown recluses run and they jump on you and bite you if they're going to bite you. They're pretty aggressive. And so the thing's running at me at the last second. I'm looking at it. I only have like 3 seconds, 5 seconds to decide what I'm going to do. I'm like, flashlight, smash brown recluse before it jumps. And so I just smashed the thing. But if that thing had jumped up and bit me, you get a brown recluse bite, you better go to the hospital quick. But the scariest thing, there was this client, I did notice this, not with a lot, but with some, that would have things going on in their house. And this is going to freak people out because they're going to think it's all of them, but it's not. The thing that's going to freak them out is that, so I see this lady and she's got like demons all around her. And I'm like, I don't even know what I'm looking at. Like, it's like a Saturday. I'm like, I'm not supposed to, like, I only work every couple Saturdays. So like, I'm like, I don't even know what the hell this is. And like, she scared me. Like, I didn't want to get near her. And then she moved into like, she had a bunch of kids. She's a very attractive woman. And she had a bunch of kids. She had married an older guy. She moved into someone else's house. And when she finally broke the first contract when she moved, I was like, thank God she's gone. She's always got rats in her house, in her trailer. Because I had a couple trailers back then. She's always got rats in her trailer. She's always got bugs in her trailer. This is like pestilence. Like, I would see a lot of pest control issues, but this was something on a whole nother level. I was like, there's no way. And maybe it's just because it's a trailer in my head. Maybe it's just because it's a trailer. It was after me seeing demons around her too. Like, I was going through the whole process. But then she moves into another house. And it's a nice house. And the guy, like, I go in, I was like, oh no, she re-signed up. Like, it's going to be bad. So I get in there and they have all these bug issues starting to happen, rat issues, everything. And I'm like, what on earth is going on here? And I'm talking to the guy and he goes, everything was fine until like a month ago. And I wanted to like look at him and go, it's because she moved in here. Because there were rats everywhere. There were ants. It was like the craziest problems. Normally, if people had ants, I could fix it really quick. It's just occasionally it was like you really had to look outside the box to figure out what the problem was. But I feel like sometimes, like, those people are attracting those to their house. Now, I know everyone's going to think they're attracting something to their house. It's not really the case. Because one person sees a roach, they freak out. I'm talking about infestations of stuff.
Yeah, when it's just open.
Ants. I'm just rats. I'm like, what? Even when she sold the house, I was dealing with rat issues with this house for like a year. I was like, please cancel. I can't fix this. I think eventually, I don't know if I ever fixed it when I left. Like, I kept treating it. Like, if I get rid of it, it would still come back. She sold the house to this guy. He's cutting down trees. I think it took me like a year and a half to fix it, which is really strange. It only take me like a month to fix something like that. I had to find the calls.
And it was it the demons that she attracted?
I don't know, because she had sold the house to this nice Mexican couple. And the guy went out of his way to cut down tree limbs, do everything he could. Because obviously he didn't want the rats in the house and the mice. But yeah, it came down to them being a hole, but maybe they just chewed that, because rats will do that sometimes. But one thing I did realize, Rossy told me once, she goes, what I find hilarious is that you're killing parasites in the physical realm, but you also kill parasites in the spiritual realm. And I realized that there were people that were calling me back for service, because I only got paid for the one service. They called me back and I didn't get paid for it. They were calling me back because there was something wrong with their house. And like just me being in the house could clear it. So, and I didn't realize this. And when she said it, I was like, oh shit. And I was like, God, or guides, whatever at that time. I was like, stop it. My job could never figure out how my call rate went from like 15 to like 2 for like years. Yeah. I said, stop it. Like, I'm not here to clear their house. And yeah, so
that's extra.
Yeah, well, that's just extra time for me. I'm not getting
hold on. I'll get to yours in a minute, Mary. But just because we were on that subject, Raven said,
never come across a demon I couldn't deal with. Come across people that will not let go of things. There's only a couple cases. I can't ask client confidentiality, but I've come across a couple cases, and it's been like 1, 2, or 3 where they could not let go. I'm getting about 2, and yeah, I would just give them their money back. So what I found interesting, there was one girl I can talk about. She came to me on Facebook time 2 years ago, and I was only on Facebook, and she said, I spent $40,000 on people to help me with this problem. She saw me, and then the next day she messaged me. She's like, I can't believe it. It's gone. I go, yeah, and you paid me $90. And I was like, whatever. I mean, I was charging far less back then. But she essentially like came back to me later with the same thing, like with something else that tried to attack her. And I think she was allowing stuff to come at her somehow. And she didn't want to pay me. So I was like, whatever. Because I'd like raise my prices by then. But yeah, so I don't know. There's not much I've come across that I can't deal with. I don't think there's really, I've dealt with some crazy things, but I'm hearing I've pushed myself to limits for this. Like limits most people would run away in fear by. I know, because other spiritual workers will send people to me. Like, Thomas, they got this going on. Are you cool with it? I'm like, yes. Have them talk to me. Let's see. They're willing to pay me like $400. Yeah, okay, I'll do
it. Exactly. I mean, Tamara, sorry, says what the demon's name, but
oh no, I don't even go down that pathway.
Yeah,
I don't even tell people what I remove half the time. They're like, tell me what you remove. No, because then you're going to get fixated and probably replace it with something else. No offense, Tamara. But yeah, it's just, I'm like, no. Even if I don't know what it is, I don't care, because I know what not the frequency, I know what the energy of it is. I just know if it's supposed to be there or it's not. I might see it. A lot of times I see something of it and I just remove it. I'm like, moving on. I'm like, live your life in peace. I had a girl come to me once, I can say this at least, is that she was all into spiritual TikTok, which is a huge issue, I will say, with spiritual TikTok. But is that, I'll tell you why it's a huge issue in a second. But she came to me and I go, you need to get the F off TikTok in the spiritual scene. You're literally driving yourself insane. Go back to being a normal person. Go find something else. Like, that's not normally ever my advice to anybody. But I was like, really, my best advice to you is to get away from all these idiots. This was like, I was like, even me, like, get away from me. Get out of spirituality. Like, take a break for like a year. But I will say this, and I heard someone talk about this. It was a psychic who's on the radio that one of my friends sent me. She's on TikTok too. And someone mentioned something about healing. And I think she's right. She goes, if you keep having all these different people work on you, why do you think you're having issues?
Yeah.
You're letting all these people pump energy into you that's from totally different sources. I was always taught that from one of my former mentors who knows what he's doing. He's one of the best I've seen. He would say, when you do a healing, you wait 2 weeks for it to incorporate within your body. You do not tell anyone about it for 48 hours, anything you heard. But you got to understand, Jimmy, we were taught from a lineage of like 36,000 years of Mayan shamanism. They perfected this stuff. I'm not in that lineage, but they have perfected this. It wasn't like some Reiki healer that had taken an attunement, gotten on TikTok, got popular in the last 8 months. And then all of a sudden, like, was like, I'm a master. I don't think I'm a master at all. So, like, yeah, I don't know. I was taught from a very old way of thinking.
The sort of that makes sense because you think about it. Because I've always thought that you don't. I mean, people can do what they want, but obviously, but it makes sense because if you could have all of these different these liquids or these foods that are really good for you, but if you have them one after the other, then they're going to mix and they may interact with each other and they may cause you to feel ill.
Let's use it.
Yeah.
If I drank 10 of these back to back, or 4, I'd probably be going crazy.
Or if you drink that and then drink something else and then have something to eat, that's all going to mix. And even though, I mean, I'm not necessarily saying the Monster's good for you because I don't think it is, but
probably not.
But you know, if you drink, say, I don't know, pineapple juice, then you have a stick of celery, and then you have some nuts, and then you have this, and then you have all of these things that are supposed to be good for you. They might mix in a way that make you feel like shit. And the fact that it's not that you haven't eaten any stuff that's good for you, it's just you've overwhelmed your body with the things, and it's made you feel, and it's kind of made you feel not so good, shall we say.
I think people like overdo it sometimes with TikTok and other apps because there's more than just TikTok, obviously. And I think they get healings like every day. Now, am I going to turn away someone? No. But at the same time, they got to be caught. Like, they can't go to 50 different people for healings. What I'm going to say is, what is their certifications? What is their criteria? I know, Jimmy, we come from an age where people had like certificates everywhere. You had to be considered like, people wanted to know your certificates. Now no one cares.
No.
I collected so many certificates. But the thing is that there is something to being trained in stuff. So now it's kind of like the wild, wild west again, I'm hearing. When it comes to spirituality, it's like literally anyone can form a cult online. I know what she's asking. What's my mentor's name? Is one of them? I've had a bunch of them. There was like Tim, Neil, Noelle. She probably won't need to mention her name, anyways. But so there were quite a few mentors I had. There were more than that. There was like Ross. You remember Ross? I'm sure. I don't want to say his full name. And for a short time, and there was a lot of people actually. There's probably like 10 or 15. I put myself through the gambit. Even with teachers, there was like 2 in Atlanta. I found the best teachers I could get my hands on. I would walk out of people's classes when I was looking for a teacher. I'd be like, I would say something crazy or ask them a crazy question, and then they would be like, look at me like I was insane. I'd be like, yep, you can't help me. So I'd walk out.
Yeah.
And I was very like, I remember my friend Carlos would be in those classes before we were friends. He would be like, I remember these classes. You would walk in there, you'd stand up in the middle and be like, I'm cursed to fight demons, which I don't believe that anymore. But at the time I did. And I go, can you help me? They look at me like I was crazy. I'd be like, yep, you can't help me. Peace out. And I would just walk out the door. I was like, I knew they couldn't help me. So I was like, I need someone who understands what I'm talking about and what I'm seeing. And eventually I found Rossy, and it made perfect sense. That woman could have been a global superstar. I think she was great to be.
Hi. Hey, Barb. We're not doing readings today, by the way, Barb. It's just question and answers with Thomas. Hey, Akisha. Got one more question.
Yeah.
Well, got another question, shall we say? Not just one more.
No, here's the-
It's what Mary says.
Ooh. Um, without socializing with others, I think that is the problem.
The-
How are you going to do mediumship if you can't get feedback from people? That's the thing. So many people are afraid to. I know who Mary is. So many people are afraid that a lot of people are actually afraid to like work with other people. But how are you going to ever get better if you don't, or
Mm.
work on other people? Like, how are you ever going to get better if you don't? Like, that is the number one question I have.
And it might be because because I've went through this. You're afraid to be wrong, and but then at the same time, you have we there again. I think there comes a time where you think, well, I'm just going to say what comes through, and then well, so be it. Whatever happens, happens. If it doesn't resonate with someone, then that's
Yeah.
how it is. But I think the more confidence you have in yourself, the more you trust what comes through, the more that will come through.
Yeah.
It's like if you doubt what's coming through, then it's almost like if you doubt it, then the channel constricts, um, because you're not giving your trust over to to the source, shall we
And
say?
we've talked to plenty of psychics, Jimmy, in our time.
Yeah.
How many times have we heard them complain about things? So like, or doubt themselves or whatever. Like we've heard this so many times.
Mm,
It's come out of us sometimes. So not like totally doubt, but doubt on some level.
mm,
But we see that's why when I started healing, I needed people's reactions. I needed to see what would happen.
mm,
And I got these miraculous things happening. And I was like, okay, well, now I'm starting to understand what I'm doing. So then I just was like, okay, how do I do this? 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 So I think people are so afraid of socializing with each other, especially now after pandemic, that it's really crazy to me. I think there's going to be a resurgence in just normal everyday walking life of spiritual teachers. That's
mm,
the pendulum always swings, whether
mm,
it's light and dark, right or left, whatever. I'm not political. People don't get mad at me. So the thing is that last night some people asked me some crazy questions on my life, but the point is that it always swings. So
mm,
like it's going to go internet, and then there's going to be a huge resurgence in everyday normal life of like
mm,
spirituality. Like it's going to go kaboom. Already,
mm,
I see it before it happens. And that therein lies the question, Mary. If people are afraid, how are they going to talk in front of other people?
mm.
I mean, I'm already starting. I already have an event next month, or this month, sorry, on the 14th. And then I'm teaching a healing modality the next month. And I have plans. My guides are like, don't say what your plans are, but I have plans.
Mm.
So, and I'm going to get what I want. So, yeah.
Because what was I going to say? Anyway, Mary said that. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It depends on who you are, like your circle of friends, whether they're. I suppose it's hard to socialize and talk about the mediumship, etc. If you're in a group of friends who think what you're doing is don't give any value in what you're doing and think that you're crazy or whatever. But then there's always the online community that you can build up friendships with,
Yeah.
and so I suppose socializing doesn't necessarily always have to be in person. But
No.
I know what you mean. Whenever I do a spiritual fair, the readers, because I generally do my sound healing stuff at fairs, but the readers who do go there, they're always fully booked, and so I think there is sort of a resurgence, and there's an appeal of having a face-to-face reading, and
which comes with its own set of I don't want to say problems. There's good and bad to this, but it's a whole different thing than being online, because I've done it in person plenty of times. But like, I did a psychic fair a long time ago, and I didn't think anything would happen. I didn't think anyone would see me, but I did one healing, and then I was booked solid. Like, people were watching me. They're like, how is this guy getting all these people? But what I realized was, the second I did energy work on that one person, it sent out a signal through the whole room. Like, the energy just started going around the room. And every time someone walked in, they were like, Thomas, 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 Thomas. And I was like, oh my God. After like 5 hours, 4.5 hours, I was like, I told the people there, I was so book solid. I was like, you have to give me like 20 minutes. Like, I got to go to the bathroom. I have to eat. I have to like smoke. I need a break. Like, it's too much. And, which taught me a valuable lesson about when this happens next time. But, anyways, I need to be prepared. So, yeah, but I feel like that's going to be the next big thing. Chiron, I know I say his name all the time, but I say it wrong all the time. But he would say there's eventually going to be there's going to be like a technological version of people, and then people that go back to like the old ways. And I still feel like he's right on some level. There might be a mix of that, but I do feel like there'll be a divide in humanity.
Aye. Oh, you're welcome, Tara. Tara, it's I think it's a common, well, not necessarily common, but it's something that a lot of people are experiencing, because they don't necessarily. There are people who aren't aware and don't give much credence to what the things that are going on, and that's fair. I mean, we've all. Well, I know I certainly have. We're deep in the shall we say, the 3D way of life, and I think it's nice to have a balance between the two, so that you can keep sort of a foot in each, so to speak, so you're not too up there and you're not too down here, or whichever way up there and down here is.
Let me speak on that, Jimmy. So, like, a lot of my friends in everyday walking life, like, I've got people that are psychic or spiritual friends, a lot of them actually. But I have a lot of friends that are just like, some of them that are psychic, we don't even talk about anything psychic. Like, we just go out and like eat dinner and talk about MMA or something. Like, I just don't even bring it up, or I might bring it up, but they'll just be like,
what dinner?
Yeah, like, we'll be eating like Rio Steakhouse. I go to this Brazilian steakhouse all the time.
They have one of them in Ipswich.
Do what?
They have one of them where I am in Ipswich.
Oh, it's amazing, because it's all you can eat.
Yeah, keep bringing it out.
It's like they don't rip you off either. Some of those charge a lot of money. These guys charge like $23 or 27 or something. But it's really like, we just sit there and we eat and we talk about different things. But then I have friends that are like, when I was 13 or 18, that I'm still friends with. And even one of the guy I eat dinner with all the time, since I've been 17. So, like, they knew me long before I was ever psychic. Like, we can sit there and talk about anything.
Yeah.
Like, they don't want to hear any of that stuff. They don't want to hear about like other stuff. So, yeah, it's actually quite refreshing a lot of times.
That's nice. I like the difference in the two subjects, shall we say?
Yeah, but this is something me and Jimmy did talk about, and I asked Jimmy this question. Lately, I feel like we've become. You brought this up first, but I felt this way too. We feel like we've become more psychiatrists than psychics. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, just some, and that's fair. In some ways, I can understand it, because people are going through a tough time and they don't necessarily know where to turn, and professional help does cost a lot. And so, in some ways, I totally get it, because if someone's having a really hard time, then and they don't know what to do, they come to someone who they trust and who they can rely on. and whose I guess not necessarily opinion, but they're the services that they can trust, and but yeah, it certainly kind of was it tests and puts. I found that I was being put under more pressure than I'm used to, which is not necessarily a bad thing, because it takes you out of your comfort zone. And when you're channeling, as you know, it doesn't. We don't just channel information that we already know. We can channel information that maybe we hadn't even considered, and we get things from places. And so it's a way to sort of push ourselves, so to speak, and we can get information. We can bring forth information that we didn't realize that we knew, or that we would sort of come from, say, our conscious human mind. We can channel that information from different perspectives. And but yeah, I in some ways it is scary, giving sort of that kind of advice, because obviously we're not trained professional counselors or anything like that. But if people want that, then I find it hard to say no. But anyway, what do you think?
They have to be willing to do the work. I think it applies to everyone, including me, including you. I can't tell you the amount of times I've told someone to study something. It's up to them whether they do it or not. So I try to fix the problem with like one or two things. I can do it energetically, but you can't totally do everything energetically. I'm hearing you can. Still, like, they'll come to me and they'll be like, I need this, I need to fix my life, I need this. And I'm like, well, you got to make a decision what you want to do. Like, you got to make a choice here. And I mean, my guides do this to me, like, you had enough yet? They'll say this to me like every couple of days. You had enough yet? Enough? Enough? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, you sure? Because you said that last time. They give me shit all the time. So, yeah. So that's the thing, is that, yeah, I've noticed this more in the last like year. And the thing is, people really love their patterns. They really love whatever pattern it is they're doing. They don't want to deviate from it. But some people will, and I've seen people completely change their lives in like a month. So it reminds me of a client that came to me. I can at least talk about this. Is that, well, my guides, because I'll rage on twin flames. She came to me and she was like in the session, and she goes, my guides are like, she's going to come to you like in the session. They go, you're going to see her one time. You're never going to see this girl again unless it's years later. She goes, I manifested my twin flame. And I'm like, guides? Yes. I'm like, what the fuck? And then they go, just tell her everything she needs to know. Do all the energy work on her. You'll never see her again. Maybe in a couple of years, if she ever comes back. And I was like, perfect. Fixed all the issues. She got everything she needs.
From Michelle.
People need more and more emotional support therapy, which in turn helps them with their physical issues. Yeah, that's true. What I find very irritating is that I feel like the brightest people, I'm getting more of a yes than a no. The brightest people get the most shit from other people in the spiritual community. I'm just going to be very controversial. Is that they shine so bright that it's like we expose the shadows in other people, even unintentionally, I'm hearing. And things they don't even want to look at in themselves. That doesn't mean I'm perfect or they're perfect or whatever. We're all humans still. I've seen this a lot. So like, I'm like, how is this? I'll be watching different creators on different platforms. I'll be like, how is this person getting any of these views? They don't even seem legit to me.
Mm.
But then it's like, oh, they got good marketing.
Yeah.
I can see it. It was like they got good marketing, they got good psychology, makes sense. And I feel like it's something spiritual workers need to adapt is the marketing and the psychological parts of it, which doesn't feel it feels like the marketing feels ethical to me, but the psychology doesn't.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
psychology backwards and forwards. And
Mm.
there is such a thing as dark psychology. And I know what I went through with TikTok months ago, without getting into details because that stuff's over with, is that there was a lot of dark psychology used against me. And I
Mm.
know psychology. I had to study it while it was happening because I didn't know exactly what was going on. But I was like, all this dark psychology is being used against me, against the other people to like drag my name through the mud. And I knew exactly what was happening. I just couldn't do anything about it. Um, yeah. So I don't know. I've seen this. It's happened to me before, Jimmy. So
Mm.
some people are just, you know,
Mm.
yeah. I'd have
And
people message me like some people are just really envious of me.
mm. Yeah, jealousy plays a part.
Yeah.
Um, um, and that's a good point. What Mary said. She says it's hard to remember sometimes what comes through because I mean, if you're channeling, I mean, we have people who channel on here, um, watching, and we don't necessarily always remember what comes through.
Yeah.
Because we were somewhere else, maybe.
People ask me that all the time.
Mm.
And I'm like, I have no idea what I said. Sometimes I remember.
Mm.
But if I'm doing 15 readings in a live on whatever app it is, like I'm not going to remember.
Mm.
I might remember bits and pieces, but I
Mm.
may remember the whole thing, but usually I don't. I'm just like, I have no idea what I said.
Mm.
So I might make an appointment and we'll figure it out. Like we can go into detail about it. I don't know. A lot of people want it really fast. I found that too in the spiritual thing. They want things to happen just, which does happen, but their
Mm.
own development needs to happen over a course of time. Because if
Mm.
we looked at ourselves 2 years ago, Jimmy, till now, we would like be laughing.
Mm. And that kind of ties in with what Lauren says. People want quick fixes.
Yeah, it's like they want to be a psychic overnight. And I'm like, it just doesn't work like that.
Mm.
You got to really want it. And one thing I know Mary wrote this, and it's no disrespect towards Mary at all. And maybe it was a narcissist, but I am so tired of people talking about narcissists. Um, Everyone can't be a narcissist. It's
That
not
seems.
humanly possible. I know about the dark triad in psychology. I had to study it while this TikTok drama was going on.
Mm.
And it's a psychopath, the narcissist, and the Machiavellian, or the
Mm.
sociopath, or psychopath, one of them. And I'm like, no one's, Mary, this is not aimed towards you. No one is like taking personal responsibility for what they've done in a relationship.
Mm.
Like no one's taking personal responsibility. Everyone that comes, every female and male that comes to me, like it's a narcissist. It's a narcissist. Not everyone, but a lot of them. It's a narcissist. I'm like, oh my god. Okay. They can't all be narcissists. I'm sorry. There's entire channels dedicated to narcissists, and I'm like, some of these guys sound legit. Most of them, I'm just like, give me a break.
Mm. It does seem it's very easy to label people without taking, like you said, without taking responsibility yourself.
Yep.
And it seems to be whatever the buzzword of the moment is. Uh,
Yeah.
at the moment it's narcissist. In other, in previous times, it's been other words. Um, and yeah, it's just about taking personal responsibility. And that's not to say that the narcissists don't exist. Obviously, they do. But it's too easy to just blame. You can either be, I suppose, you can either be a victim or you can blame other people. And no, sorry, you can either be a victim or take responsibility.
Yes, that is the key. You have to take responsibility because you had a role to play in that. I'm just gonna give an example. when I was 39, I went out with this girl. Now, it was a very crazy situation between us, very like intense physically and emotionally. Only lasted 3 months, which you would say it's only 3 months, but it was 3 months. It was very intense. And afterwards, I asked my former mentor, Tim, I said, what happened? And he goes, oh, interesting. He goes, it's not like it's Druidy, but it's a village. You were the wizard. She was a sorceress. The thing was, is that you you killed her. You weren't supposed to. Did anyways, and you knew you weren't supposed to. And the whole point of this lifetime is I was like, fuck, she did exactly to me what she did then. But I wasn't supposed to kill her, and which I didn't, obviously. Hope she's doing well now. And in 6 years. So that was the karma of it. Was that I wasn't supposed to do anything. I'm sure scared her. I'm sure I scared her. But it's a whole nother story. Not really physically or anything, just what I said to her. Yeah. And then never talked to me again. And but if that hadn't happened to me, I froze.
Hey Bob. Michelle says, was it batshit crazy, Thomas?
Yes, it was. It was. Sorry, I froze for a second. But I was going to say, if that situation had never happened, I don't know if I would have stepped into this like hardcore. I was doing this part-time. That's when I made a decision. I was like, I am not doing any relationships for years. Yeah, so I was like, let me just go down the spiritual path and see what happens. And full-time, or not full-time, but really take it seriously. And so it was batshit crazy. It was. But I didn't mean it was her fault.
Michelle come up with a new, we were talking about guano earlier while I was, and which is obviously batshit, I think. She said you should make a coffee brand, batshit crazy coffee out of guano.
They have those bats, they poop out coffee beans. They're very expensive. It's like the most expensive coffee in the world.
Is it bats, is it? I thought it was...
Maybe it's something else. I think it was bats. I don't know.
I think it was... I know what you mean, though. I've seen
them. Lemurs or something. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. Some kind of mammal. But
people pay for anything.
Well, it's cats, is it, Rosetta? It's something. I know what you mean. It's definitely bats. Oh, Kathy says it's definitely bats. Oh, you're right. Cats, bats. Anyway, I'm so sure there's a few. But has anyone got any more questions that they would like to ask before we sign off? I'll just check that I haven't missed any, actually. Tara says, I can see a certificate for psychiatry in your future. just kidding, she says. Let's have a look.
Psychology is always interesting.
Do you think it's worth studying, sort of, even if it's doing a sort of a basic course?
I didn't really realize how much I liked it until I took it in tech school when I was 20. I aced it. I didn't ace really any classes in tech school, but they just didn't interest me. But I took it. I got almost 100 on that, and I was like, oh, this is very interesting. So yeah, psychology to me is very, very, I study it a lot, especially dark psychology, because I didn't realize it was even a thing until 9 months ago. And I'd heard about it, but I was like, everyone keeps talking about narcissism. What about Machiavellianism? I had a friend that passed away last year, and I noticed I've been 17. And he had a master's in chemistry, but he decided to become a social worker. So I think he got a master's in that or something.
Mm.
and very intelligent guy, but he helped so many people. And
Mm.
so like he's like, I could teach chemistry my whole life, but he's like, I'd rather like help people.
Mm.
Like it's
Yeah.
more important to me.
Mm.
So he's like, even though I went to school for all these years to get a master's.
Mm.
So yeah, so like I was like, he would be obsessed with like serial killers and stuff. I'd known him since he'd been 16. So
Mm.
like really crazy, kind of scared me sometimes. But the
Mm.
point of it is that he's one of my best friends. So it just, whatever. We'd have long discussions about his serial killer obsession.
Mm.
And anyways, so like, but it's just that psychology is so interesting to me.
Mm.
Like understanding why people do what they do, whether it's coming from like their subconscious mind, whether it's coming from their childhood.
Mm.
I got to be careful what I say. I'm hearing whether it's coming by whatever reasoning. People don't realize a lot of their patterns are from their childhood.
Mm.
So, like studying even dark psychology just to understand when it's used against me, because I've seen it happen more than a few times, but I
Mm.
can catch it really, really fast now.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
a lot
You.
of times people will say they want something. So, let's say it's a relationship. They'd be like, I want this or that.
Mm.
Here, be careful what I say. So, they want this or that. And I've noticed this in my own life, dating and stuff, is that I shut my mouth and I listen really close to what they're saying to me.
Mm.
And I'm like, you telling me exactly? Like, I remember I've heard this from like 5 people. They're like, I want someone to really see my soul. I don't want to be worshipped. These would be beautiful women. And I'm
Mm.
like, you won't. No, 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 no. After I saw it the first time, I was like, I got the pattern. You want to
Mm.
be worshipped, and you telling me you really want to be worshipped is what you're telling
Mm.
me, which could be a total trauma thing from their childhood.
Mm.
It could be from somewhere else down the line in their life. But dear God, when I call them on it, because I'll be real quiet, and then one day I'll just get kind of like this, and I'll be like, well, if you weren't so traumatized, you might not have this problem.
Mm.
Why do you need to be worshipped? Why is this even important? When you're 60, is this going to matter?
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. I've got a couple of questions, but Barb, we're not doing donations, we're not doing like readings. But if you got a sort of a general question, like for example, Mary has asked the question: is there a simple way of creating a protection shield?
I have to teach that. Yes, there is. I don't know how to teach that. I mean, I know how to teach it. I don't know how to explain it. It's
Mm.
like being in a live. It's like people ask me questions. I'm like, I don't know how to explain that in 5 minutes. I can do it in a class though.
Mm.
When I teach like energy class, like I'll teach people how to make shields around themselves and stuff, or I'll like help them with the energy of it. But I kind of have to show them.
Mm.
So yeah, so there's a simple way. My guys are saying like look at a book and then do what the person's saying.
Mm.
I've read so many books, Jimmy, on spirituality. Probably
Mm.
like 100 and I don't know how many, a couple hundred. Yeah.
Holy Toledo. And she says, do you feel that majority of psychic mediums have had a difficult life from childhood to adulthood?
Probably, but I think everyone has.
Mm. Very.
Depending, I've seen people who make my life look like nothing,
Mm.
like their childhood, and other people I've come across in my life that are not psychics. That dear God, what they've gone through, and I'm like, what I've gone through, I can't even compare this.
Mm.
Like some of the stories I've heard from women, I obviously can't talk about, but I'm just like, dear God, like I couldn't even imagine.
Mm.
Like I couldn't even imagine
Mm.
what they went.
Exactly. Mind you, I think this is. I mean, if you have got an idea, then obviously share. But Sharonda says, "What's a good hertz to listen to hear your guides more clearly?"
I think that's Jimmy's question.
Well, Sharonda, it depends in what respect. if you just want to hear your guides, just connect to them, then I'd say either the heart frequency, so say any frequency on the 639 solfeggio scale, or the frequency for the thymus or the higher heart, which is just a note above the, which is also on, it's actually also on the heart frequency scale, but it's just one above the heart frequency. So I would say the heart solfeggio frequency, which is 639 hertz. So any note on that scale would do well, because I feel like this is the connection. I know we have, like, say for example, the pineal gland and the crown chakra, and the third eye. They're sort of seen to be our connections to the higher realms, or different those sort of dimensions. And you can try that. You can use them as well. But for actually our guides, because they're aspects of us and they're connected to us, I feel like using those frequencies will connect us to them more easier. Whereas the sort of the pineal gland, the third eye, the crown chakra, they're for connecting to sort of more of a collective, more of a sort of everything frequency, whereas the guides are more personal. So we want something that's personal to us, and obviously our heart is the hub, shall we say, of our being. So using something like that. If you go to my channel, Alpha Aura Healing, on Facebook and on YouTube, there's some heart chakras frequencies there. And there's also a few other ones there as well, which you can have a look at. So you can try any of them and see what you think.
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question. You're welcome, Mary. Mary says, thank you for your time and energy and knowledge. You're welcome, Shonda. Right, question from Barb. Barb says, how do you learn how to clear your karma?
I don't know. You just live your life, and I think a lot of the people that you come in contact with, like, it clears out karma. Or, I mean, I don't know. Your best friend could have been your wife in a past life. Could have been your wife. Could have been your daughter. Like, it's so crazy. So so many different avenues of how this works that I think you just live your life and then clear as you go. What I think happens sometimes are things repeat. So I'd say this without getting myself in trouble. So I think sometimes situations I've been in have happened in the other past lifetimes. So I've seen like one in particular. And I think it just depends on, I don't know the karmic aspects of it.
Yeah.
Like some situations I'm like trying to figure it out. I'm like, why is this happening? And then I ask and I see something from a past lifetime and I'm like, oh Jesus. This happened before. So like, I think it's up to all, what I'm getting is I'm channeling a little bit. It's up to all parties involved to do. Edgar Casey had a very interesting case study. So when he was reading someone, essentially a family, it's Edgar Casey on karma on Audible. And he was reading for this like person. And he goes, your family is reincarnated for the last, like, it was either like 1,000 or 10,000 years over and over again, just to get along with each other. That's all. Just to get along with each other. That's it.
Yeah, nice.
That was the whole point of their reincarnation, was just to get along with each other.
Brilliant.
No.
Barb, I've got a 2-word answer for you, actually. Pay attention.
Yeah.
That's how you learn to clear your karma. Well, in my opinion, pay attention.
Something that doesn't feel right to you, don't do it. So like, I mean, but at the same time, if you feel excited about it, any aspect, do it. Well, not excited, but you get my point. Like if it gives you drive or something.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Is this you, Ada? Someone says Facebook user, but says when you meet someone, can you tell if they are psychic?
Yeah. Usually everyone's psychic. Still, there are people that have more of an ability than others. There was a girl in Louisiana I met, and I really wish I could keep track of her. She's kind of fallen off Facebook and stuff, and she won't answer my phone calls. So, but when I first saw her, I was outside late at night, like at 2 a.m., walking the gas station. It was close by this hotel I was at. And I looked at her and I was like, "You're psychic." And she was just totally like blown away. She's like, What? She's like this 24-year-old girl. And I was like, "You're psychic." And she was like, "What?" And I was so what's the word? Shy about it because I didn't really want to talk to her. I did, but I didn't. And so she was like, "Well, what are you talking about?" I was like, "I can see it all over you. Like I can see it, like see all this stuff." And she was like enthralled with me after that. So, but because I don't think anyone had ever noticed it before. But like I beeline towards her. And then after like 2 minutes of conversation, I just walked away. Like I have to go.
Yeah.
Because I was like, this is making me uncomfortable. So I didn't tell her that until later. But yeah, so yeah, I can see it a lot of times. I see it on a lot of people. It just depends on what they're willing to do with it. I've seen clients that have no idea how psychic they are. They have no idea. And just people around me. There's people I'm friends with that are. There's a friend of mine. I shouldn't talk about this in here. He's a Qigong and Tai Chi master. He's super psychic. I harass him all the time. And I'm like, dude, come on, man. Like the world needs what you can teach. You've been all over the world learning this stuff, but he doesn't want it. You know, it's not what he wants to do, and that's his free will. So
yeah, totally. Question from Tara. Well, two questions. Well, three actually. On the screen.
Okay. Where did I get mine? Someone makes them for me. I can't tell you who. And I wanted to bring up to her, 'cause she's probably watching, is that she was talking about, getting more income streams. I was like, I think people might pay $300 a bracelet for these things. They're that powerful. So I haven't told her that yet, but I think it's a good income stream. I think people might actually pay like $200 a bracelet. So I took these things off like 2 days ago, and I was like, oh Jesus, I feel like a total shift in my energy, because they're encoded with all kinds of like frequencies and things they do. Each one, I don't remember each one, but it's like when I take this off, like I won't keep this off. I'll clear it, but I'll put it right back on in the morning. So I think for you, Tara, whatever you're drawn to, go into a crystal store and just look at the crystals. That's what I'm saying. Or like a crystal convention. There's lots of them floating around. You can find all kinds of deals on crystals and see what you're drawn to.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, go with whatever. Yeah. I know you probably heard this, Tara, but it is you just it's the same with anything. Go with what you're attracted to, and that will be the one for you. It's a sort of it's an easy answer, shall we say, but it's the best one.
Usually the easiest answers are the best ones.
Yeah, we try and make things complicated, and more often than not, the easiest or the best answer is the simplest one. It's like keep it simple. Why not?
Well, my Rossy used to say that, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
Like people think I'm like terror, dear God. They should have met her. Half the spiritual people I know would not even be able to handle her. But she had a lot of students, but she would be yelling. But she'd be like, keep it simple, stupid. Just remember that every time you ask me a question.
It's the anagram. It's like a kiss. It's kiss, isn't it? Keep it simple. Yeah, the anagram.
And she wasn't calling them stupid. She just was saying like that's how they operated.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like Kathy says.
Yeah.
Melanie says, seems to be a lot of people in the spiritual community breaking off from each other, sadly, but I know it's karmic or growth for one or the other.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, there's plenty of that. It's quite entertaining to me. I like to watch it. I like to hear all the stories from other people because they tell me. So, yeah, I find it absolutely hilarious. So, I knew that the camera thing would be a big thing when I was on Facebook, but I never thought it would reach the levels of TikTok. So even 2 years ago when I first really started going live on TikTok, like it was around because I saw a video pop up on my main original account. It's not my main anymore on TikTok. Is that yeah, and it showed me like right before I started going live, and I was like, whoa, that was 2 years ago. It was like my how things have changed in 2 years.
Mm.
But yeah, I see all these fighting and like breaking and drama, and it feels like it's middle school to me. But it's so entertaining to listen about though when people tell me stories.
Mm. Yeah, I don't have any drama in my life, so you don't get any entertainment from me,
I
unfortunately, mate.
try to just stay away from it, but people tell me stories, so I'm just like, oh yeah, I want to hear it. Tell me, go ahead. I mean, it's like a soap opera.
Mm. Yeah, it's sort of like a movie or
Like
whatever.
Days of Our Lives.
Mm. Aye, right. I think we're about done. It's coming up to the 2 hour mark, so um, thank you, brother. That was
Thank
very
you, sir.
interesting, very entertaining. And thank you everyone for your questions and for watching. And we'll be back doing readings next week, as usual. So we'll see you all then. Thank you again. And if you got anything have you got any courses or things coming up?
I have so what do I got? Psychic Kitchen tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm doing a free event, free healings. And then on Sunday, I have on ThomasSawyer.com, my website, I've got healings, like healings and activations. It's like an hour and a half on Zoom. I think it's 33.33. It's pretty cheap. My class is usually a lot more expensive than that.
Mm.
And that's on my website. So if people want to sign up, it's on Zoom. It's on Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Bob, Tara, Rosetta, Brian, Kathy, Tara. And we'll see you soon. Au revoir.
Thank you.